Hello everyone, and thanks for tuning into the latest UK General Election Opinion Poll Tracker video from the Gavin Partridge YouTube channel. So we do these videos once a month. We look at the latest prediction from Electoral Calculus for the next UK General Election, and then we have a look at the opinion polls that prediction is based upon. So we're going to be looking at the prediction from the end of April, beginning of May, based on April's opinion polls, and I shall get on that for you in a moment. Just say that if you're enjoying the content on the channel, please you like, share and subscribe. Thanks so much for doing that. We're probably 6 months or so away from the general election, I imagine. Now we're past May, there's no sign of it being called for June, so I'd imagine it's going to be in the autumn, sometime around October, November, maybe. So, 6 months, possibly less than 6 months away from the general election. It's getting ever closer, and when the general election is actually taking place, during the period of the campaign, these videos, I'll try and do them every day if I can. So there'll be opinion polls coming out every day through the course of the campaign itself. So these videos will go daily, or at least couple of times a day, not a couple of times a day, but once every 2 days, something like that. No, I won't do it twice a day. That will be a little bit too much. No, so the content will increase though through the general election. So if you're interested in this, please like, share, subscribe. Thank you so much everyone for doing that. Right, so let's have a look at the latest prediction then from Electoral Calculus for May 2024 based on April 2024's opinion polls. So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom! There it is. Current prediction: a Labour majority of 294 seats. That would be a record landslide majority. I don't think there's been a majority that big within British political history. It's over 100 seats above what Tony Blair achieved in 1997 and also 2001, and it's about 30 seats up on the prediction from the previous month as well. So let's have a quick look at that prediction then. We've got our party columns just here, 2019 votes and seats just here. Remember, predicted shares of the votes column just here, with the predicted seats within the margin per error just here. So, of course, we've got the central prediction for seats in that column, and then there is a margin of error, of course. So at the low end we have this seats, at the high end we have this column just here. Okay, so let's have a look then. Well, catastrophic for the Conservative Party. After getting 44.7%, 45% of the vote in 2019 and 376, they are now predicted to get just 22.9% of the vote, so 23% of the vote really, with a central seat prediction of 85 seats, under 100. That would be an absolutely catastrophic result for the Conservative Party. There is a margin of error within that, so at the high end they could retain 211. At the low end, they could go down to 30 seats, which is basically oblivion. 85 seats is oblivion, really, from where they're starting off at, but 30 seats, would be true oblivion, I suppose. Labour predicted to get 472 seats in the central prediction. At the high end, they could be as high as 545, so virtually every seat in the Parliament. At the low end, they could be as low as 351 within the margin for error. Note that is still above the 326 they need to get an overall majority. So even at their lowest end, they're still getting an overall majority there. Liberal Democrats and that's on a predicted share vote of 43.4%. By the way, Liberal Democrats predicted to get 9.6% of vote, which is actually a little bit under the 11.8 they got in 2019, and that gave them just 8 seats. But this time, the 9.6 is predicted to get them 50 seats, and the reason, as we keep saying, for that is tactical voting. So that is where in Conservative Liberal Democrats marginal seats, the Labour supporters will vote for the Liberal Democrats to get the Tory out, get the Conservative out. So there's a margin for error with that as well. So at the high end, they might go to 61 seats, which would be a really terrific result for the Liberal Democrats. At the low end, they could go down to 19 seats. Quite interesting that now at the lowest end of the Conservative score, 30 seats, the Liberal Democrats, if they get their 50 seats, or indeed 61 seats at the high end, they will become the official opposition to the Labour government, replacing the Conservatives as the official opposition. Seems very unlikely that that would happen, but, it is mathematically possible anyway. That's what we see within that prediction. Reform are on a predicted share of 12.3%. Which yields them absolutely no seats. And again, that is first past the post. That is the voting system. So the Liberal Democrats on 9.6 get 50 seats. Reform on 12.3% of votes get a central prediction of no seats. At the high end, they could get 21, though. So there is a bit of uncertainty about where Reform are and how many seats they get. But definitely, smaller parties, non-established parties, are very much penalised by first past the post. Greens on 6% of the vote predicted. That gets them central prediction of 2 seats. At high end, they might be on 4 seats. They could lose all their seats at the lowest end. The SNP on a central prediction of 3.1%. That gives them a central prediction of just 19 seats. That's over half of the seats they got, 48 seats that they got in 2019 gone. At the high end, they could hang on to 39. At the low end, they could go down just 6. Most of that favours Labour. Of course, most of those seats will transfer back to Labour. Not all. 1 or 2 could actually go to the Conservatives. So on a really terrible night, that could be the only positive for the Tories, but they might get a few seats off the SNP. And then Plaid, but most of those SNP seats will be going to Labour, of course. And then Plaid on a central prediction of 0.6% of the vote, which gives them a central seat prediction of 4 seats at the high end. They could hang on to 4 seats at the low end. They could go down to 1 seat. So it all works out that Labour has a central prediction of 294 seats, which again would be a record-breaking landslide majority for the Labour Party. Now, having a quick look at the opinion polls that that prediction is based upon, this is how they are looking. You'll notice a complete sea of red. Again, we haven't had a Conservative lead in an opinion poll since, I think, now 2021. So, the Labour lead is large and stable, and it's not going blue anytime soon. I don't think that end column just there. The only way it'll go blue is with my highlighter. So let's have a look at a few of those opinion polls then. So, YouGov are giving Labour absolutely massive leads at the moment. So, for example, we've got YouGov just here, showing the Conservatives down to, and that's from the 10th to 11th of April, showing the Conservatives down just 19 seats, Labour on 45 seats. Liberal Democrats on, what am I talking about? Showing, let's do that again, showing, so YouGov just here from the 10th to 11th of April, showing the Conservatives on 19% of the vote, Labour on 45% of the vote. Liberal Democrats, just 8% of the vote. But look at Reform, 15% of the vote, just 4 behind the Conservatives there. And that gives Labour an overall lead of 26%. More big Labour leads with YouGov. Again, we've got the 23rd, 24th of April, this poll just here for the Times. 20% for the Conservatives, 45% for Labour, 13% for Liberal Democrats. They slip back, for Reform, they slip back slightly, 25% overall Labour lead. There are a few polls that are slightly more, let's say, not as large with the Labour lead. So, for example, we've got Savanta here. They have tended to have slightly lower Labour leads compared to a lot of the other pollsters. So they found on the 5th to the 7th of April that the Conservatives were on 27% of the vote, Labour on a predicted 42% of the vote, and Reform on 10% of the vote, which gave Labour a 15% lead. We also have Opinium, which again have tended to have slightly lower Labour leads, less large Labour leads, if you like. And they found the Conservatives on the 3rd and the 5th of April at 25%, Labour on 41%, Reform on 11%, and Labour on 16%. So it seems like the higher the Reform share goes, the lower the Conservative share goes, and the net gain, of course, is to Labour in terms of the strength of their lead. Later on in the month, we have Ipsos Mori, our oldest pollster, most established pollster, from the 3rd to the 15th of April, conducted an opinion poll that had the Conservatives on 19% of vote. That is the lowest Conservative share, with an Ipsos, formerly Ipsos Mori poll going all the way back to when they started polling, which I think was in the 1970s. So the Conservatives have never been under 20% in a Mori poll, in an Ipsos poll, in their history. So they found that the Conservatives were on 19%, Labour on 44%, Reform on 13%. So not desperately big share of vote for Reform, but Labour rather higher on 44%, and the overall Labour lead was 25%. And then right at the very end of that, we have this rather shocking poll that turns up, which is from YouGov again, and this came out at the beginning of May. It's from the 30th of April to the 1st of May, which had the Conservatives as low as 18% of the vote, Labour on 44% of the vote, Liberal Democrats on 10% of the vote, and Reform on 15%. So in that poll, the Conservatives were only 3% ahead of Reform, and it gave Labour an overall lead of 26% of the vote. So a huge lead for Labour. Conservatives really in the mire, and Reform is getting, with some of these polls, anyway, not all of them, but with some of these polls, Reform are actually getting really quite close now to crossover with the Conservatives. So let's have a look, shall we, at the overall opinion polling graph from Wikipedia, and all looking really stable, to be honest. So, crossover for this parliament happened late in 2021, just here around the time of Partygate. We then saw a rather modest but relatively stable Labour lead of about 10 points through the first half of 2022. Conservatives removed Boris Johnson as their leader, and Liz Truss became Conservative Party leader and Prime Minister, had her mini-budget, which very quickly unravelled, and that is when we see the Labour lead going off into the stratosphere and the Conservatives cratering. And I believe it was at that point that, the game was up for the Conservatives. This might have been salvageable just here. Who knows what would have happened, if that sort of modest, but, stable but modest Labour lead had been maintained right the way through. But it was at this point where the crater happens in the Conservative share, and that is the point that Labour won the general election. Now, beyond that, we see that Rishi Sunak becomes Prime Minister, and so there is a slight tick up in the Conservative share, and a slight downtick in the Labour share around here, but still an absolutely enormous and massive lead of about 20 points. And so that is where we are, with a very stable and very large Labour lead. Nothing much changing in terms of the Labour to Conservative share. The switch from Conservative supporters to Labour to the Labour Party, that happened in the latter part of 2022 and has not it's shown no signs of changing or reversing or anything happening there this side of the election. Down here, we've got Reform. Now, we are seeing a bit of a tick down, interestingly, in the Reform share. We have done since through May. So this will be more something we'll talk about more in next month's tracker video when we look at May's opinion poll. But there's a slight tick down that's taken place in the Reform share over the past, over the past couple of weeks. That has shown no sign of going back to Conservatives, though. So quite where that's going, I'm not sure. The trend line for Labour does lift up ever so slightly, so maybe some of that is actually Reform to Labour. Who knows? But there's no sign of that tick down for Reform having any benefit at this stage, anyway, for the Conservatives. And then, of course, we've also got Liberal Democrats, so they're not really going anywhere at the moment. They're just quite stable. And then we've got the Greens, SNP down here. This is how government approval is looking overall. So this is from the YouGov tracker, and again we see dire times for the government. So on the 13th of May, 69% were disapproving of the government, with just 14% approving of this government. And let's have a look at the don't know. So 18% didn't know. So still we see that the people approving of the government is underneath those but don't even know whether they approve or disapprove or not. And things remain absolutely terrible in terms of government approval, as we have seen really since this period here, which takes us through the second half of 2021 through here. So you'll see that the second half of 2021, that is where the government started getting more and more unpopular, and things get even worse around there, which is 17th of October, which is the worst point actually for the government. 77% were disapproving then, and just 8% were approving. That was just as Liz, I think, was being removed. And since then, things have just been very, very bad for the government. And coming back to the prediction from Electoral Calculus then. So again, the central prediction from Electoral Calculus for the next UK general election is for the Labour Party to have a landslide record-breaking majority of 294 seats. The Conservatives with a central prediction of just 85 seats, going underneath 3 digits, going underneath 100 seats, and an outside chance that the Liberal Democrats could replace the Conservatives as His Majesty's, blimey, official opposition. Still hard to get your head round. It's not Her Majesty, isn't it? After all that time she was on the throne, it's still very difficult to, get your head round, and it's His Majesty rather than Her Majesty. Anyway, there we go. So, dire times for the Conservatives and any Conservative supporters. I know there will be people watching this that are Conservative supporters. I would like to be able to give you a crumb of comfort, but there's not much. The only thing I would say is about the elections that we just had for the local council elections, the mayoral elections and whatnot. They were really bad for the Conservatives as well, don't get me wrong, but not quite as catastrophic as this prediction. So it's possible that the opinion polls, or some of those polls, like YouGov, are overstating Labour to some degree. We did see, YouGov mayoral predictions showing that Sadiq Khan will win the London mayoral election with an absolute landslide. He did have a big win, but it wasn't anywhere near the prediction that YouGov was making for that. So it is possible, if you're a Conservative supporter, that there are 1 or 2 crumbs of comfort in real elections. But nevertheless, the Conservatives are heading for a really bad general election, obviously. And Labour are, almost certain. I think Sir John Curtis said they're 99% certain to form the next government, and there's absolutely nothing in this, in any of this, that will go against that assertion. Right, well, anyway, we'll do it all over again next month. So we'll be looking at May's opinion poll opinion polls and the prediction from Electoral Calculus in June, and we're getting ever closer now to the general election. So the months keep ticking off. Eventually, the Parliament's going to run out in January 2025. The Parliament will run out, and there will have to be an election. So we're getting ever closer. We're ticking off the months, and we'll do another one for you in June. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, subscribe, and we'll be back with more very soon. But for this one, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.